Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and we're here for another watercolor episode. I think this is episode 20, which is pretty exciting. I'm going to show you how to do a very simple, fun, colorful floral, a little tiny bit based in poppies. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hi guys.
He's helping me get these videos out to you, and he's tracking me with these cameras. One important one is the robot camera, so you can really see the up close brush action, which is what's important for you as a watercolor student. Every lesson here is very focused at a beginner experience. These are good first time paintings if you're trying to learn how to do watercolors. Let's look at our materials real quick. I've got some brushes for watercolor painting. I have a 3/4 oval and an 8 round. These are black velvets. I have a special splatter brush to make little artsy splatters. I have a 4B pencil. You could use a 2B pencil. The harder the lead, the lighter gray the graphite is, and the harder it is. The softer it is, the darker it is, softer it is. So 4B is pretty soft, pretty dark. I have green, bamboo green. I have lemon yellow. I have phthalo blue, and I have quinacridone magenta. And I'm going to sketch in some loose flower shapes that you guys can follow along with. Of course, there's a traceable on our website. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just very loosely let myself know where I've got a big sort of flower shape. I come down in a U that's really wide mouthed and open, and very lightly with wiggly lines sketch in my petals. Then I'm going to make another little petal here that's very loose. What I love about poppies is that they're crepey. They have little delicate blooms and flowers, and they make neat shapes. That's one of my favorite things about them. And John's seen some poppy fields in his time as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to curve that little stem down, John, because I think when things are curved, they're more interesting.
It's very light.
Yeah.
You're just lightly light sketching.
I sketch lightly enough for my eyes to see it. I don't mind if a little of it shows through the watercolor. But I do want it to be a delicate line. I'm going to bring a cross bow line right here. And let's go ahead and give ourselves a nice little, maybe more open shape, where the petals are more open and we see that dark bit in the center. I can be very loose with this. And the reason that we can be loose with this is that we're going to be using a lot of fantasy colors. I'm going to do a little wiggly little leaf here and a wiggly little leaf here. Wiggly helps you draw better. Honestly, say it, you'll draw better. So look, drawing is not the only entry to art. And if you don't currently draw, I don't want you guys to worry about that because I'm going to get my number 8 brush wet here because drawing is just one of the many art skills that you learn over time. Now, one of the things that you figure out about watercolor is that watercolor goes where the water is. I always like to see that the water leads the color here. It's the carrier that unbinds it and lets it come into the paper and affix into the paper. So I'm very loosely painting a light wash around where my big flowers are going to be. And the reason that I'm doing that is so that I can have some bright, crazy colors in the flowers, but also just a little bit of a light background. So I'm going to get just some of my phthalo. I'm going to get like a wash. See how we go? It's super light where I pull out a lot of water and thin it. And then I'll just go ahead and put just a smidge of this color here and there around, leaving the space where the poppy blooms are going to be. Even though these are going to be psychedelic poppy blooms, John.
Hmm.
Let's not go with traditional colors because we're artists and we can paint what we like. Would be the point of being an artist, right? You do your thing. I'm going to go ahead and spread this out. I really hope everybody liked yesterday's lesson where we talked about paper and how paper and color can impact our result. I'm going to keep bringing this down. Everywhere I've kind of got some plants and stuff, I can put this. Now, I don't have to leave my leaves blank because they're going to be darker green. And so I can be kind of loose about this, just pushing this pigment. When I dip, and if you don't hear me go swish, 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 I'm actually leaving quite a lot of pigment still in the brush and adding more water. It's a neat truth about watercolor brushes is that they hold a lot of pigment until you actively swish them out. And
Gotcha.
I've noticed I'm making these very loose little strokes. I'm just trying to get a little color here. So when you get to the end of your sky, before you paint in your poppy blooms, it's important to let the paper dry. And you want to make sure that it's really, really dry, like not just slightly damp dry, because everywhere the water is, the pigment will go. And if you're trying to keep your bright color confined to a specific space, it'll be harder to do if the paper around it is wet. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to vigorously, this is me getting rid of all the pigment, rinse out my brush. And I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to do a wash inside the white paper. So in watercolor, in general, the paper is our white, even though there is a white pigment that you can get. And so it's important to remember that if you need any light values, that you've got to use the paper and the transparency of your paint to create those light values. Now I'm going to just very carefully take a little of this lemon yellow and I'm going to just loosely put this a few places, right? Just let it be there, wiggling it around into the very soft, wet paint. I'm going to have a nice amount of that yellow. I'm going to come and get some of my pink. And I'm going to come just to the bottom and around and make sure that some of these petals have this very playful pink feeling. And I might even come and mix these two together to get this sort of muted orange that they do. Place that a few places. So this isn't about creating the most realistic flowers. This is about creating flowers that are playful and colorful. I get a little purple by mixing my magenta and my phthalo together. Let that blend into there a few places. Now, purple and yellow are contrasts, so where they touch, they're going to gray a little bit. But that isn't going to at all detract from the beauty of what I'm painting here. Now, at the bottom, it's really nice to do a very, very dark color. And I'm going to start that now. But I'll come back with my green later. And I'm doing this in lieu of black. I'm not actually going to use any black or gray in this piece. I'm going to just use chromatic color. So see how it got that darker color at the back? Now I'm going to come over here and again in this wonderful baby, I'll just go ahead and put my little color space out. And I'm going to focus predominantly on my pink at first. Pulling this in. You can see I'm just working that all around. And I'll go ahead and get a little of my purple blending out at the center. Just doing crazy, crazy colors. Whatever comes to me, whatever I'm feeling, I can get a little of my yellow and add a little bit here. But you can see it'll gray because the purple. It's important to rinse out any of the purple that you have. Darker, darker blue. And come in the center of this. There, put it and it like pushes it out with that capillary. That's that wonderful effect where the paint goes and I can just deepen it and deepen it and deepen it. I can even come here and deepen it and deepen it and deepen it with the blue. Fun, strange little flowers that we found in our imagination where we keep them. You're so quiet today.
I'm just watching the flowers
I'm
come
taking
to
a little
be.
bit of the blue on the tip of my brush and I'm wiggling along the edge of this,
Oh
coming
yeah.
along that edge, making these little abstracted, crazy little flowers. And you can see how the pigment stays contained where it is, and I can come back with some of the pink if I want to. Putting that a couple places. And even as it goes out like this, it's still going to lighten. It's so interesting because as it dries, it'll continue to lighten, and that will change the nature of all of this. Let me go ahead and get a little of the pink here and add that layered over. Doesn't that make almost like what feels like a dark black
Oh yeah.
center? And just bring that out. We're just talking about that. Now, if ever you want to lighten, you rinse, rinse, rinse out. You go ahead and you get a little water on there, wring out the extra water, and look what I can do. I can lighten that color a bit. It's like a type of erasing that you can do in watercolors.
Wow.
So if there's a spot you're like, oh, let's make this lighter. I'm going to change how it is. Come through, a little water, pulls the color up, it lifts it. I take my towel to suck the moisture out of my brush. Just go ahead and let it lift a little bit. And then I can even come back with some pink pigment just along this edge and make this side a bright pink again if that's what I wanted. It's just important to know that those are tools that you have. Now I'm going to take my green and get my green. And then I'm going to come underneath this. And I'm going to make a nice little stem.
I got to watching.
You got to watching?
Yeah, I was like, ooh.
I like to use this little brush because it does a nice job of a curve line. I'm going to rinse out some of my pigment. And I'll go ahead and just let this be a little bit light right here. And I can even grab some of my lemon yellow and add it in. And then while the lemon yellow is on there, I can come right to this leaf and just create these little wiggly lines. Aren't those pretty?
Yeah.
It's just a completely different creative process for me than my acrylic process, and I love it for that. I feel like there's a delicacy to everything I get to do in my watercolor space. So come in here and just pull in a little of my dark pigment. And then if I want a nice line coming from up here, I can bring that in. I can even have some of this dark value here. And then here's an interesting trick. Because red and green are complements, I can darken some of my stem by just adding the magenta. I'll stop that line right there because I'm trying to imply that this little piece is behind the other, and I can add that to the back right here. And even a little bit of it along here, creating that delicacy and enforcing that. Isn't it amazing how you can do that? Stop
Oh
there,
yeah.
continue on. We're actually coming to the end of this little floral study. But it makes you realize that studying florals can be very playful. It doesn't have to be stressful. There's a lot you can do to play with your medium. I find it's nice to sand my work. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little of my phthalo blue. And I'm going to just sign right here. Tip of my brush. Bless you. And just take in my work and enjoy it. Listen, as you're on this watercolor journey with me, you may have discovered this either through my YouTube channel, My Acrylic Lessons, or maybe you just ran into us here. Just something important to know. Be very easy with yourself. Don't be judgmental with yourself. A painting practice isn't built in one project, it's built over many, many projects over time. Artists are not made and fabricated, they're developed, they bloom, they grow. It's a process like a season. So be sure if this is something that you want to bring into your life, that you're giving yourself that time to grow and develop as you need to creatively. I hope you're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to do another botanical. I want you to be good to yourself, be good to each other, and we're going to see you in the art studio really soon. Bye bye.